Alrighty guys, welcome to the half motif of the Dutch Rose crochet along. I'm using Felted Button of Our Tribe today, and I really love this one. I think it's so pretty. So I'm pretty excited about this half motif. It starts with the pink and turquoise. I've already made a slip knot and put it on the hook. So I'm just going to go ahead and like motif 1, chain 3, slip stitch in the first chain to make a ring. Okay, so now I am making my beginning DC, SC chain 1, and then chain 1. Now I'm going to do my large shell, which is a cluster, okay, chain 2, cluster, chain 2 and cluster. All right, chain 1 and DC. Okay, and then we're going to turn, and this is the wrong side of the motif. So that's my first row. Okay, I'm going to turn, and then I've got my chain here. So I'm just going to work beginning DC, and then 2 more DC in the first chain space. Okay, and then for the for the next 2 chain spaces, DC 5, and then 3 in the final. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is our next row, row 2, and this is on the right side. So this is how your motif is actually going to sit, with row 2 on the right side. Okay, turn. Right, so for this row, we're going to go into the first stitch and make a beginning DC, SC chain 1 again, and then DC in the same stitch. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, DC, all right, and then DC in our next stitch as well. Chain 1, skip 1, and then now we're at the corner. We're going to DC, chain 2, DC in the same stitch as the previous one. And that's our corner. Okay, and then we've got chain 1, skip 1, DC in the next 2 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1, make our corner, DC, chain 2, DC, DC in the next stitch as well. Chain 1, skip 1, we're at our very final stitch where we do DC, chain 1, DC. Okay, so this is row 3. All right, and working right into the chain space, we will be making beginning DC, chain 1, and a cluster. Okay, and then chain 1, skip 1, and we're gonna kind of work into these 2 DC from the previous row. DC, okay, and then chain 1, oops, chain 1, and then we're going to skip this chain and work straight into the corner now with a large shell. So cluster, chain 2, cluster, chain 2, cluster. All right, and that's our repeat. Chain or chain 1, work 2DC in the 2DC of the previous row, chain 1, and then large shell in the corner. Okay, so I'll be back once I've worked all the way to the end, and I'll show you guys the row. Okay, so here is the row. I have a large cluster that we stopped at, chain 1, 2DC in the 2DC of the previous row, chain 1, large shell, same thing, and then in the very last stitch we've got a cluster, a chain, and a DC in the last chain space. All right, and now we're going to turn, and this is going to be row 5. Okay, so we're going to single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in that chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 and come to single crochet in the chain 1 space, and then in the 2 DC from the previous row, and then in the next chain space as well, to have those 4 singles in a row that you might remember from the full motif. Okay, chain 3, go into the chain 2 space of the large shell, chain 3, and again into the next chain 2 space of the large shell, and then into the chain 1 space. From this single crochet we're going to make 2 more like we did previously into the DCs from row 4, and then single into the chain space. Okay, and I'm going to work like this around, all the way to the very end. And in the end, I'm going to make my single, chain 2, single. Okay, I'll see you guys in a sec. All right, so here's what row 5 looks like. It's just basically these 4 singles in a row and these 3 loops in the corners. That's the important part that we're starting to make the shape of our flower. All right, and at the very end, single, chain 2, single. Okay, now we're going to turn, and we're going to do row 6. All right, so we're going to work directly into that first chain 2 space with a beginning DC, a chain 1, and a cluster. Okay, and then I'm going to work a large shell into my first chain 3 space. So cluster, chain 2, cluster, chain 2, and cluster. That's my large shell. Okay, so now I've got my large shell there, and I'm just going to go straight into the next chain space for another large shell, and then I'll work my small shell in the corner, and that's going to be my repeat. Large shell, small. Large, large, small, and then large, large, small. The small is the corner. Large, large, and then we'll end with just a cluster, chain 1, and DC. All right, so I'll see you guys when we're at the end, and I'll show you the row. Okay, here's the end of that row, the row 6. So you've got kind of the petal look already going here. And I've ended it with cluster, chain 1, DC in the final chain 2. Okay, so you're working this row from the wrong side, and this is row 7. So you just elongate your working loop and come down to this first SC here, and you're going to work around it. Okay, single crochet around it, then chain 2 and single crochet around the next SC, which is all in the very first chain space here. It's like a front post stitch basically, but it's just a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 3. Okay, we're going to find the next single crochet, which is here. All right, and just like motif 1, we crochet around it. So it looks like that. Chain 3. And you're skipping these 2 center single crochets, and you're going straight into this last one. Okay, so your hook passes behind. This is just like with the first motif, the full hexagon. Chain 3 again. All right, next single crochet is easy to locate. Go behind it, make your single. 1, 2, 3. Another one the same way. 1, 2, 3. Okay, around this one. Skip 2 and work around the last one. Your hook in and come up behind it. Okay, I'm just going to work around. This is looking like watermelon. Skip 2. Okay, so now I do have to cut my yarn because my next row is also on the wrong side. So I'm going to start over here working on the wrong side as well. And that's just because this is like a turning motif. So in order to get my final row to be on the right side, I just have to, the way the rows fall, I have to work this row on the wrong side. So I'm going to go ahead and break the yarn. I'm actually going to break it. And then just pull out my loop there. I'll weave this end in later, and then I'm going to start right back at the beginning to start the row. Okay, so row 8 here. I'm in my first chain 2 space here. I'm going to go ahead and rejoin my yarn with a slip stitch. Okay, and then I'll work beginning DC, chain 1 and 2 DC, okay. Now I'm just going to do 3 DC in the next 3 chain spaces. And I'm working over that tail just so I'll have one less tail to weave. And this yarn and stone washed are both so fuzzy that that tail will be coming loose. If it was cotton, I would be a little more worried about it, but not with these fuzzy yarns. Okay, so I've got 3DC, 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 and now I'm in my corner. So I'm going to do 2DC, chain 2, 2DC, and then again. All right, here is row 8 completed. Okay, and you can see my final repeat here. In the last corner, 2DC, chain 1, DC. All right, and then we're going to turn. Okay, so on this row 9 here, I'm going to go ahead and push up my row 6 because I'm going to anchor it even on the side. Normally I would just be anchoring it in the corners, but I don't want this part to just be flopping down, so I do have to anchor it on the side. And I'm going to work through both layers. So I'm going to grab that chain 1 space on row 6 and go through it. And also I'm going to go through the chain 1 space on my previous row, which is row 8. So I'm going to go through the chain 1 space on both rows, row 6 and row 8, to pair them up. And then working through both of those chain spaces, I'm going to single crochet, chain 3, and make sure to work through both, single crochet again. Okay, and that's going to anchor my petal row at the end. I'm going to do the same thing when I get to the other side too. Okay, I'm going to chain 3. And working into row 8 now. I'm going to skip 1 and go into, actually I'm skipping 2. Skip 2, go into the next stitch. Chain 3, skip 1, single crochet in the next stitch. This is just like, the rest of this is just like the full motif, chain 3. Okay, so now I'm at the center of a side here, and this is the center stitch I'm going to be working into when I anchor my the side of my shells, my round 6 here. So I'm going to go in the space, just like on the full motif, and make my single crochet into that DC stitch. Okay, and that will tack my petal row just like the last one, just like the last motif. So then I will chain 3, and working back on row 8 again, skip 1, single, chain 3, skip 1, single, and then I'm going to chain 3 and go straight into the corner. So I'll be skipping 2 with a single and a chain 3 and a single. Okay, I'm doing my repeat now. Okay, so in this very last chain space here, I'm going to push up my row 6 like I did in the beginning, and get that chain 1 space, and then get the chain 1 space from row 8, single crochet through both of those chain spaces at the same time, chain 3, and then go into both of them again and single crochet to secure the end point of the motif. All right, and now when I turn, I'm on the wrong side, but let's just examine this, how this looks from the right side. All right, and it's got my petal row anchored here. It's anchored in 3 spots plus the beginning and the end, so 5 spots total. And you can see the chain loops that I'm going to work my next row into. I've got the corner in the corner, and then I've got 1, 2, 3 before the anchor, and then 1, 2, 3 after the anchor. So that's what you should have on your row 9. Corner, corner, 1, 2, 3, anchor, 1, 2, 3, chain loops. Okay, so now we're going to turn and work on the wrong side, and we're going to work our 9th or 10th. I lost track. Okay, so now we're going to work row 10. This is a pretty easy row. We're just going to work, I'm just going to show you one repeat, and then I'll be back to show you the end of it. So we're going to beginning DC in our first chain 3 space here, and then chain 1 and 2 DC. Okay, and now we're going to 2 DC in all of these 6 chain spaces across. Okay, all right, so now I've got 12 DC there, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And I'm going to make my corner, which is 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC. Okay, so this is my repeat. I've got 2DC in each of the 6 chain spaces, and then my corner 2DC, chain 2, 2DC. So I will see you guys when I'm at the very final corner to show you how it's done, and then I'll show you the whole row. Okay, so my row is finished. My last corner is just 2DC, chain 1, 1DC. Okay, so here's what we're looking like, and this is from the wrong side. This is row 10 with 2 SC. Okay, 2 single crochets, and then we're gonna just single crochet all the way across. And I'm just gonna work this side and work this row and show you guys when I'm done, because it's just single crochet in all the stitches and then 3 single crochets in the corner. Single crochet all the way across, 3 in the corner, and then single crochet all the way across, and then 2 in the corner. In the very last corner, there's just 2. All right, so I'll meet you guys back whenever I'm done with that. All right, so my row 10 is finished. Okay, so 2 singles in the first chain space, single crochet across, 3 singles in the corner, and repeat. And the last corner just has 2 single crochets in it. And our motif is done. We're on the right side like we should be. And once we join it in there, we're going to leave a long tail for whip stitching our motif into place. That is our half motif. We're all done, you guys, and I will see you guys in the group to see your progress pics. And happy crafting, y'all. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.